Yes, well, we've still got to get our predictions in later in the show, but let's talk about these playoff teams. And you've got to start with Houston Sabercats, the top team ranked overall in the competition. Obviously had a bit of a wobble against San Diego on the weekend, but really have been the flag bearer of the West, only losing 2 games all season. They've got so much depth. And when you're looking at their style, you know, they have a bit of that South African-esque to them under Heineken Meyer. They've got a very strong kicking game, 9 and 10 and 15, a real big access in the way that they control games. They've got a monster pack that looks to put you under the ringer at scrum, at maul, and then they just bring that physicality, whether it be their centers in their middle, their big carriers in their pack, that sort of gain line-based team with a strong defensive edge to them as well. They're very, very tough out for any team that plays them, especially at home, which is what they have earned. They control their destiny in the first 2 playoff rounds. And if they're able to win their first one, they're at home again. And that's where they're really, really a handful to play. And only the Free Jacks are the only team that found a way to crack them there.
It is. Very difficult place. Oh, and the wind as well.
Yeah.
Just to add to that. I mean, yeah, it's not exactly ideal. But no, you're spot on there, Corbs. Nothing really to add on the Sabercats front. Well, how about the Seattle Seawolves? They've got to be up there as one of the most successful teams in Major League Rugby. They make the playoffs year after year. I think Alan Clark really recruited well this year. And actually he had to, because they've dealt with some injuries, big injuries as well. The likes of obviously Ricard Hatting, who I believe we are still yet to see him come back. And I don't think he is coming back until the end of the season. Charles Elton as well, back rower. Joe Taufete, who has been massive for them. Hoping to see him pretty soon. I know he's had a few niggles. But yeah, who they brought in? Mac Mason. I mean, clearly the top point scorer in Major League Rugby. He controls things so well, and his boot to match it, the points he is knocking over. And with the people around him, like Joe Taufete in the set piece, he is immense. I know you know that. You've week after week just been saying how good Joe Taufete is. And they just seem to have a genuine strength and depth. Again, being at home, they will be at home, and you will be playing them, San Diego Legion. It's a tough place, Starfire. And again, they haven't been broken down too many times there. One of the teams that nearly did it was you guys, and I think we won. But ultimately, overall, they are a pretty complete playoff outfit who like to play the big games. Alan Clark there, and Chris Latham. It's definitely worth shouting in that he's been in this season. I definitely think he's made a difference. But really, as I say, Mac Mason, he's one of the big things, going with JP Smith, 9 and 10. They are almost like a playoff winning type pair together. So they've been fantastic. And now talking about big games, because again, San Diego, we'll come on to that next week in our show. We'll play Seattle Seawolves. But the Legion, I was there at the game, enjoyed it massively at Snapdragon. What a venue. We've already talked about the final being there. Well done, mate. I think finally I'm seeing a San Diego performance which looks like, okay, you might start running into these playoffs. The Legion, where have you been good? I know there's work-ons, but you're in it. It's another year being back in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's been, a different year to last year. Very sort of like up, down, and not maybe a consistent sort of development as maybe you wanted to see. But I think in a lot of ways that adversity has forced us to grow. And I think that what you saw against Houston was hopefully a step forward of what we've been trying to achieve from an attacking point of view to our kicking game, to areas of our set piece, although Houston did stress on that. I think more of what people know from Legion, the brand of rugby we want to play, that was the best example that we've been able to deliver this season. And hopefully it's a building block for what we can produce in the playoffs, because it's been a bit of a grind and it's been a bit of a constant working project, but we really are starting to turn the corner, I believe, and hopefully we're able to show that was what we do on the field.
You know who's definitely turned a corner this season? Dallas Jackals. Oh. The Dallas Jackals make up 4th in the West, and they therefore make up the last 4 going into those playoffs when they come round. And I've got to say, I said it with Nate Osborne, and I meant it in the most respectful way. They are the best side with the losing record. Oh. And they've been pipped at the end in a few games. They've won a few games right at the end. Their ability up front, that's one of the key things. Kutzer, the hooker, has been scoring tries for fun off the back of those mauls. Gomez Vara, outstanding at the 6th position, or frankly, wherever he's played in that pack. And obviously you've had Sam Goller and plenty of other experience in there as well. Again, they added really well this year, really cleverly from Kuka, Cavalieri, Juan D. Oliver at 9, Winchester as well coming in at 10, even though they got so many options in that back line with some really quality power runners as well. They look strong. Actually, one of those runners being Richardson, the Canadian at 13. He's actually a really key player. He's domestic, but he goes so well, defends really well. The Dallas Jackals are going to be one of those team corps that, like, Houston won't enjoy playing.
Don't want to play them.
Don't want to get into that game this week. But overall, Dallas have really impressed me, even though they have that losing record. So those are the teams in the West that make it up. As we head over into the East, I'll start by going with the Free Jacks Corbs. NOLA would talk about with Cam Dolan before you head up Chicago. But the Free Jacks, right? Okay, so inconsistent, you said about the San Diego Legion, obviously being in the final last year. If I look at the other team, being in the final last year, winning it, they've been inconsistent, dealt with some bad injuries with Conradi, who's been out for the season. He's always epic for them in the back row. Having to deal as well, Reece McDonald's been out for a good chunk of the season. Potros was injured. They've had really not very timely injuries. But credit to Scott Mathy. Like, they still produce. Yes, they had that loss on the weekend against NOLA. They rested 5 of their big guns, man. Like, and I think NOLA will understand that as well. And you back them in playoff games. And I've seen them at times, particularly at what game away at DC, where they don't mind being from behind. A bit like the Legion, don't mind being from behind. They do struggle a bit in the lineup area. But then I've seen Quatrant completely turn on, and he's been a brilliant hooker as well in this league. So I think Free Jacks deservedly are in the top flight in the East. I can see them very much getting to the final. But at the same time, I do question whether they are the team of like last year still, but we shall find out. NOLA will speak to Cam Dolan about Chicago Corbs. Lots of change there, but you still rate them very much.
I still think they're an absolute team to keep an eye on in this playoffs. You know, obviously, no Sam Harris, change at head coach, but if anything, that seems to have just galvanized them and given more emphasis to go out and maybe right the ship, because it's a team that probably came in with a lot of hype, signed very well in the offseason, maybe didn't quite put together what was expected of them at times, but recently 2 games in a row winning, they're starting to look like a real handful. Yes. I think you can't overlook their pack from the way their line out operates. They can disrupt teams. They maul. They've got great variation off of it. Luke Carty is now taking those reins at 10 and really making that team his own. You've got quality throughout the back line. You know, guys from Billy Meeks to, you know, Dominguez to Nate Forsberger, like to, you know, young talent like Noah Brown as well.
Brilliant.
Like, this is a team that is starting to click, especially in attack. I think they've always had the game control. They've had pretty rough and tumble D that can niggle you, slow you down. They play in the right areas with their forward pack, but they're attacking rugby, the way they're moving the ball, really variety out the back. They're changing their forward shape with move it, different pictures. I think they're a real handful. They're obviously going to have to go on the road in the playoffs, but they're a type of team that can beat anyone in this comp, and I think they're starting to come to real strong form just at the right time.
And actually, it's funny you say that. The 2 teams they beat on the road this season are the Free Jacks and NOLA. Yeah. So I don't think they'll be bothered about playing either of those teams. The other team as well who has done well, DC have beaten the Free Jacks in the Free Jacks. They had a really tight game against NOLA away in week 1. DC making up the East. Now, I smile when I talk about DC Corbs because we haven't always picked them. Sometimes we have, and then they've disappointed us. No, look, I genuinely believe it was probably about week 13 when they just lost to Seattle, 26-24. Jason Robertson actually had a kick to draw that game. But ever since then, they have been a much better side. Having spoken to Simon Cross as well when doing some broadcasting, like, he genuinely also got to the point where he wanted to use the start of the season, first half, to like give guys game time, give the domestic guys game time. Credit to him. They really are trying to build something at Old Glory with the domestic players. But he now knows his key players in key positions. They've got some continuity going. They've got a really good set piece. They weren't very good in that area in the line out against Miami. That's something that let them down. But I probably would say it was an anomaly because Rob Harley's been superb for them in that second row position. And whether they have anyone in terms of their front row has been great options, none other than Stephen Longwell. Yeah. He's been a revelation, having him back from Bristol Bears, as I'm sure you know all about. And again, having a key number 10, Jason Robertson can kick his goals. He's got good people outside him like Tommaso Boni, the USA Eagle, former Italian international. So DC have got themselves in there, and again, you can easily see them doing a job come when it comes to the playoffs. So there we have it, Corbs. That's the final 8. There is still a week left of Major League Rugby, and there is still one team that we haven't discussed, which are New Orleans. NOLA Gold making their first playoff run or appearance this season. And we thought, what better way than bring on the senator himself, Mr. Cam Dolan, USA Eagle, and been with NOLA for however many years now. They had a big win against the Free Jacks 27-17 in week 17. So we wanted to get them on and see how Cam's doing and how NOLA are preparing for those playoff push. Let's get them on.
Let's do it.
Here we are with Cam Dolan.